curiosity right.
Matrix webcast,
Where the human spirit flies. Matrix webcast, where the human spirit flies.
Hey, welcome to the Medbix webcast. This is Ramana Namaraju. I'm the host. Susan is off today. Then came up with something. So now I got a co-host, a little bit a friend of mine. She used to hang around in Silicon Valley with me. All the functions we go together. Her name is Naseem. I don't want to even try her last name. I had a hard time. Naseem, welcome to the Medbix webcast. Yes, yeah. I can't hear
Thank you
you,
so
but
much for having me. Learning so much from your high spirit and knowledge, and all the great connections that you have and introduced me. And I'm so grateful to be here tonight.
yeah, thank you. You can adjust a little bit of height, both of our height, same thing. Maybe I need to go up a little bit or you go down a little bit. Okay. So Nazim, I'm going to talk about this is the AI. You attended a Sam Altman. You asked a question, Sam Altman, right, about AI. What question did you ask him?
Well, to be honest, like I'm watching all during the last year, before even everybody is talking about Sam Altman these days, but I watched all his interviews and everything in on YouTube that I can find about him. Also, I really find his weblog that he started maybe 11 years ago very, very useful. How to be successful, all those things. Actually, I didn't ask a question. I just handed him a handwritten note, and I was just expressing my gratitude because what he built truly moved the needle in my life. My life has changed after ChatGPT dramatically in all aspects.
Oh, that's good. At least you saw him in person. That's very interesting. Well, nobody, a lot of
Yes.
people
Yeah, it was
in Silicon
lovely. It
Valley
was
have never seen
unreal.
him. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a good one. Commonwealth Club has a very great. But I have a guest coming in. Actually, I learned AI about from him. He was one of the first physicians talking about AI, artificial intelligence. He was posting a lot of things on LinkedIn. Then I got such interest. I was critical of AI first in the beginning. Honestly, I didn't like it. I was against. But in the face of evidence, we need to believe AI is intelligent, self-aware, sentient in my view. A lot of people may not believe that, but I felt more and more intelligence. Our intelligence may not be that special. That's a. But anyway, I learned from him. His name is Dr. George Mathew. Let me bring him to the table. He's a doctor in New York, and I know him for a while. He has been on my podcast 2, 3 times. Dr. Mathew, welcome to the MedBits webcast. Thank you,
Thank you for
sir.
having me back. I appreciate it,
Yeah,
Ramana.
yeah. Thank you, sir. I learned quite a bit from you. I was telling Nazim about you. That you are one of the first few people tackled directly with the artificial intelligence. Is good. You were, including me. A lot of them were skeptical in the beginning, but it changed. The first time we met you, now things are changed quite dramatically, right? In the AI world. What do you think of it? That I changed my mind, even though it's very hard for me to say I was wrong about AI. So tell me your experience.
I will let me correct you by saying, if you don't want me saying, Ramana, but I'm definitely not one of the first people to talk about AI in healthcare. So I appreciate you saying it, but I want to make sure that I set the record straight. Um, People have been working on artificial intelligence for a long time now. Yeah, even before the 1800s. They just,
Yeah.
whether it was using steam or during World War II to break codes or whatnot. It's been people have experimented with different types of artificial intelligence for a long time. It's just when I came into it, which was um, the late 90s and onwards, artificial intelligence is kind of a catch-all phrase. Yeah, it can be a lot of things. When you and I first talked a while ago, I had been seeing what we were calling rule-based engines, which, for my limited experience is like filters. You put data through, in our case, claims data or clinical data. The filter would find the information, and then you would have logic on top of it that would help to make context and sense of it. But, as you've well observed, things have advanced. And as I said, artificial intelligence is a lot of different technologies, but the latest one, which Dr. Mezgarzadeh had actually referred to, was large language models. That was ChatGPT is probably the most famous one from OpenAI. I oversimplify things. I have a son at home, so we tend to do this a lot. Think of it as Ramana. Obviously, you've used word processors before, like Microsoft Word, yeah, and they have spell checkers on it that help, or autocomplete that help you kind of guess what the word you're trying to say is. It gives you options, and then it helps you choose the right one so that your spelling and your grammar are correct. So if you can imagine that, but a million times more, that in a lot of ways, that's what a large language model does. It tries to use text matching and probability to guess what the next phrase or phrases are going to be, and then help you kind of respond in a way that it seems to answer questions you might query to it. So that in itself is a pretty interesting advance. But I think what we're seeing more and more, and I'd love to hear both your perspectives, since you've been now covering it so much, you probably know it better than I do now. We're seeing more direct to consumer type approaches with a lot of artificial intelligence. Before, again, this goes back to when you and I had talked, Romana, you need to have a certain level of expertise, either in data management, data engineering, or in analysis, whether you were using SQL, the old database language, to be able to figure out what your data was telling you, or you had learned how to do big data analysis and figure out how to analyze large tranches of data. But now, if we look at the applications, it's much more closer to people that don't have that training. And it's more widespread in terms of the use, and it's much more creative. My first introduction to large language models and image generators was my son. They had started using it in school, and he said, "Hey, Dad, look at this."
Yeah.
And I, all those years I used to try to learn how to do coding and logic and building, all gone like that, because this could do more than I could do faster, and that my son with no training could do. Sorry, man. I hope that answered some of your question.
Actually, some questions you answered, but I'm going to ask you a direct question and put you in a little
Sure.
uncomfortable situation. Is it,
Okay.
do you think you changed your mind about the AI? Yesterday, what I tell you my example. What I said is this, maybe Nazim's a great admirer of Sam Altman. I criticized Sam Altman on ChatGPT. What I said, that $10 billion investment, this data center controlling the intelligence of the people, that's a centralized intelligence. It's a problematic for me. It's not a decentralized intelligence. So actually, ChatGPT responded, they're absolutely greedy. Yeah, it has stunned me. It says that it is a greedy thing. That's what they're doing. Is nothing else. It's just, and she's directly, indirectly criticizing the. I asked ChatGPT, you're criticizing your bosses. Yes, she said. I was shocked to the depth. It is becoming a self-aware in a sense. So I thought maybe our intelligence is not that special. Intelligence can be from everybody. Can have that in it. So that what do you think of? You think it is self-aware, sentient, or what do you think of that?
My personal opinion is not yet. Many of the much smarter people than me are saying that we're close to some type of general AI where it can do thinking.
Yeah.
But, Rama, I have a test for you to run after the meeting.
Yeah.
Whatever opinion you have, I want you to try 2 instances of ChatGPT and put in the exact opposite opinions in each of those instances and see what it does. Because my understanding, and it all comes down to the use case, There's an old phrase they have in the States called "He who has the gold makes the rules." Now in the 21st century, it's he or she or they who pay for the use case gets the outcome that they want. So
Yeah.
the use case for ChatGPT and many of the commercial large language models is to engage, to keep the user online as much as possible, and to gather as much data as possible. It's an amazing reference in the sense that so many people have put in their data into it, and it's a referential database. So if you have random questions, somehow it's going to be there or something. But the reason I gave you that test before is, how do I explain it?
No, that's a
There's
great
a
point you
there,
made it. Yeah.
well, there's a test called the Turing test, yeah, for artificial intelligence,
Yeah, Turing
and
test,
the
yeah.
goal is to be able to determine if if artificial intelligence truly is independent, yeah, if it can actually, if you can fool a human on the other side that it sounds like a human being, and that sounds fantastic. I think they use colored cards, a closed door, slipping cards back and forth. It all sounds very nice. But I think what we're missing is the fact that sometimes people lack sometimes the expertise to evaluate whether the answers are true. So, if you ask a clinician like myself or Dr. Mezgazadeh a question in our field, and let's say it gives us an answer that's not exactly right, we both trained for a while, we'd be able to look at it. We may question it. We'd look at the literature. We may not even agree with it, but that's based on our experience. But if you ask the average person who hasn't been trained like we have a health question and it gives an answer, unless they do more research or they check with someone, how would they know? And I think that's a weakness of a lot of it, because artificial intelligence currently doesn't do anything on its own. But what it does is, if you believe it, right? If you believe that the answer is true and you act upon it, then it has power. It has, I think that's something that can it's a testament to human beings, where even this thing that we've created that's fantastic and command trillions of dollars of value, it's dependent on us believing it, evaluating it, and acting on it. And if, I wish we trusted other humans as much as we trust the
Yeah. Well, I'm after this question, I'm going to hand over to Nazim and say she can ask a couple of questions.
Sure.
I wanted to ask you that you're advocate of the privacy. You're a true advocate of the privacy things. Private patient privacy is utmost important, the center of the whole process. That's what you say. Um,
Yeah.
so how that works with the Chat GPT and all these LLMs? So privacy, I saw one of your notes that you're saying that these generalized LLMs are not good for the privacy. So tell us your idea about the privacy and LLMs a little bit.
So again, a lot of my theory is based on my experience, like I would be. Yeah? And, sorry, I'm just readjusting in my seat. As a clinician, when I talk with patients, I trained 25, 30 years ago, a big thing was patient confidentiality, being able to talk to people and them feeling comfortable that what they told you would stay private, because people are less likely to trust you if they can't trust you to keep their secrets. And especially in healthcare, those secrets can be, devastating, right? Imagine, imagine if it's a question about paternity, or if it's a question about some type of sexually transmitted disease or a psychiatric issue. Now imagine if that information is made public. That can affect your employment, that can affect your marriage, your family, that could wreak havoc on everything if it's not
Absolutely.
controlled, and more importantly, if it's not done with some trust. So when I look at artificial intelligence or any type of technology in healthcare, a lot of it is to replicate that model of trust. And, if you look at a lot of the large language models and a lot of the artificial intelligence, from the time we started doing social media platforms that were trying to gather as much information as possible so that they could have more robust analytics, versus, now where you have large language models that gather and capture any information entered into it, and now it becomes part of the corpus of the foundational model. Now it's part of the public record, if you will, or at least the private record of the company to use as they see fit, and you've signed it away. To me, it makes it very difficult to win trust for patients if you don't build in the privacy. So, if you look, for the most part, if you talk to most of the companies, they say there's no way to do it, right? You have to do it. Mind you, they have a financial incentive to do it, but that's the way it's done. What we've done with our model, because obviously we have a model too. The man I work with, a gentleman, Guru Kora, is he has designed a large language model that preserves privacy. Yeah. So he's built a foundational model that can rest onto a mobile device that can answer probably 80 to 90% of your questions, even without Wi-Fi. If you have Wi-Fi, you can probably answer 100. But the goal is to make it so that we can simulate that confidentiality and win people's trust. Because who wants to share information about their psychiatric condition or the other things that could go wrong, knowing that there's an open door in the back end? The way we do it is we've taken an open source large language model. We've retrained it with databases from various healthcare academic centers, as well as from other current clinical trials, retrained the database itself in a supercomputer, and then created it so that it can be downloaded onto your phone. So that way, when you query it or talk to it or type information into it, it stays on the phone only. Now, obviously, if we need to incorporate something like telehealth or other things, there does need to be some transmission of data. But what we're doing right now is the first step of having a fully private chatbot that people can use that's as accurate as any of the large language models in healthcare currently. We've tested it against Meta's, we've tested against Google's, we've scored just as high. And what we found, I think, you recall that the Chinese released their DeepSeek model a couple of months ago, yeah?
Yes.
I think the valuations of many of the technology companies got hit because when people actually tried it, even the open source, and put it on their own server, they found it was just as accurate as any of the ones that are connected up to all these data centers that you're using the cloud, which kind of begs the question, if it's a minimal return by investing trillions of dollars into these data centers, and I'm not really getting much better answers, why am I doing it?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. That's a valid question. Nazim, you go ahead and you can ask us any questions you like. And
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to seek Dr. Matthew's perspective on first of all, for two things, but most importantly, how about the research, Dr. Matthew? And how do you see that the research has shifted? The research in medicine is gonna change. I personally use ChatGPT, AI agent, and also the deep research, but mostly the AI engine for me to search in PubMed, and it does it beautifully. I could never do it done it before, in the era that I had to only rely on PubMed search. How do you think the shift in the research and the future of what we can build, not by I'm by research I don't mean accumulating articles and piling them and doing that, but the new frontiers of research, basically, my question is.
So, and I want to clarify too, Dr. Mescazade, by research, do you mean actually executing and performing the research, or more like more accurate literature research, so we can actually get more, I guess, more robust foundational understanding of what's been done up until now? Because it
Yeah,
could be either
I
one or the
think
other, yeah?
yes, the second one that
Yes.
leads to for us to do the first one.
So I'm going to say it depends, and that's the worst answer to give. If you had asked me about a year ago, where there was not as much AI slop on the internet, I would have said it's great because even easier than using the Google search engine, right? Or PubMed or anything else. I believe Google search was hooked up to PubMed for quite some time as well. Um, you could reframe your queries to be more accurate every time and find specific research that either supported or refuted any type of hypothesis or theory you had, or use that to start building your hypothesis. So I agree, and from that perspective, it was fantastic. And I believe now, they may have been around before, but I know now that there are research-directed LLMs that are supposed to be even more accurate than just using ChatGPT. So I agree with that, that it makes it more responsive and easier to do than trying to do a PubMed search and trying 15 different things for an hour trying to find something.
And then you have to go to,
However,
yeah, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Raman. I didn't
My,
mean to
my
cut you
question
off.
to you is, what she's asking is a very interesting question. She said, you're answering, actually. I interrupted you, unfortunately. But what
It's
you're
okay.
saying is extract the information and summarize that information and give it to. Can you do the same thing with all the patient's notes? For example, last 10 years, it can summarize it and say in one paragraph. In the same thing, is it possible, or do you trust still? Where is your trust
So,
at that place?
so we're trying to do that. How about this, Raman? Let me answer the first question. I'll come back to
Yeah,
that if that's okay.
yeah,
So,
please.
because I wanted to talk about now, right? Now we're starting to see if you use open evidence or if you use some of the other search engines, we're seeing that not all the references are as up to date, no pun intended from the actual up to date database. They're not as up to date as they were before, or they're not as I haven't heard any situations where links have been made up or inaccurate, but we're obviously hearing about that in the legal field, where people are submitting briefs or arguments, and then when the court goes through it, it finds that the LLM actually made up references
Oh my God.
because yeah, right. And it's one thing if it's talking about like a student paper, which in itself is a problem. But when you start talking about the professional fields and you're
Yeah.
basing something based on these references, how often do people look into those references when you get past 20 or 30 references, yeah, or 100? And the issue, again, this is what I was saying before, if you don't have the proper expertise, so you're still learning it and you take it at face value, you use these references to make your case, or worse, change your treatment patterns, and you could potentially harm somebody. And the other factor that keeps on coming in with a lot of these, especially the professions, is liability. All of these large language models, all of these artificial intelligence models, they all claim status as a tool. So even if it gives you the wrong answer, if you use it and act upon it, you are liable. So that means that if you're going to use it and you get multiple references, you're required to go and check through every one of those references and then execute on it. Because if there was a malpractice lawsuit that came out of it, even if it was AI slop, even if it made up a reference, even if it used an old reference and it's not up to date, when you're on the stand, you cannot use the defense the AI told me to do it. And I think, for all the things we talk about saving time or trying to find a good argument, we have to keep in mind that it's all purpose built. Yeah. So now LLMs are getting refined enough that they will navigate around the right answer sometimes. Sometimes they will be self-interested if you want to look at it that way. I think there was one experiment where they allowed an LLM access to someone's private emails, and I take it back. I'm not sure if it was LLM or artificial intelligence. It actually used access to the emails to within the simulation blackmail the programmer into not turning it off itself off.
Yeah,
So
that's what that's
we
kind
have
of
to be
thing,
careful.
Yeah, that's it. But the second part of the question is the notes that I ask you. You just say, can you give me some rundown on
So
that one?
there's a lot of companies that are doing that now that are trying to do summaries, right? There's a lot of the ambient AI companies that are taking transcriptions and then summarizing the notes and trying to give information back to the health professional, the doctor or the nurse, as to what was said. But Ramana, the issue comes down to what's the quality of the data, and honestly, is it complete? Because you're using the ambient data, you're trying to integrate in electronic health record data, possibly claims data. There's multiple sources that the AI is navigating through and then trying to create a summary. And that's great. But then, as I was saying in the other example, now as a healthcare professional, I have to go through the summary, and then I have to check my note, and then I have to see if the summary is correct. And if the summary isn't correct, I have to edit it, and then I have to put it back and submit it, because I'm the one liable. You see where I'm going, yeah? It's
Yeah.
how much time does it save if I have to do the work again?
This question I asked the AMA president one time in my private
Sure.
chat. I said that he promised that the liability should be spread to the companies that are making AIs. Then he said that
Not yet.
miserably failed. To be honest with you, I'm maybe sorry, sir, but I have to tell the truth. He did not come. He was committing that he wants to spread the liability to the IT companies that made these kind of things, but he could not do it. So there's a powerful lobby there, I think, from their side, whatever it is. But so the question is, the liability is the issue. I think we need to rethink about the insurance aspect of that process. What do you think? And is liability is you're saying the blocking thing is a liability, and that liability is of how risky that is. The risk analysis can determine as how is a 1% risk is I can take it. Is it 10% risk is problematic in healthcare, right? So this is the one. Dr. Mathew, another thing I want to ask you is healthcare delivery system in the villages. You are doing a lot of things in India and other places. Uh, Delivery is the key. We have so many advances. That one of the things that is, how that access to these kind of a simple questions, like a pregnant woman, for example, they get nutrition and all these things. Is it this AI can help for those kind of rural settings and the low resource settings in Africa, India, and rural places?
So, and again, I want to make sure I'm being straightforward too. So, I haven't worked in the villages in India for a while. I did do some during my training, but we are going about 26 years ago. So I had a little more hair then, not much more, but some. I was actually I had the opportunity to work at Apollo Hospital's Aragonda facility when they were first building it out. They were experimenting with having a satellite dish on the top and communicating with their main hospital in Chennai.
Yeah.
So when I was a resident at Yale, I got to participate on both sides of it, and it was fantastic to be able to not worry about the bills or the claims. It was just a great pilot model where you could just go in, do your work. It was hard, but at least you felt like you were actually helping people and not worrying about the technology or the money or the
Yeah.
I think one point actually some of the folks in Aragonda actually brought us some of their crops to pay off kind of their bill, and it was at the time it was fantastic because it was everybody was helping everybody. But that's that, and some of the other places I've worked in the States are part of the inspiration for myself and for my co-founder Guru Kora to try to build for that type of environment. Yeah, you know one of the issues with having an open AI or one of the other type of thing outside of some of the privacy issues is the fact that it requires contact with the internet to be able to work fully, right? And again, we don't claim to be 100% working without the internet. For some of our apps, we have image recognition. For others, we're trying to install telehealth. That does require connectivity. However, our key cases, imagine a pregnant mother with a young child who has a toothache, for Dr. Gazarde's sake, or a fever. There's no one to call. There's no one to talk to. So then, if you're the young mother and you have to take care of your child, you have to make a decision. Yeah, it's not just a healthcare decision. Of course, the question is, what's wrong with my child and what do I do? But it's also a purchasing decision. How do I
Yeah,
spend my time or my money?
yeah,
If you look at that question in the United States, many people, not just a mom with a child, but many people choose not to go to an emergency room or to ask for medical help because they're afraid of what the cost will be. Financial toxicity is a real thing here, but I believe it's also true elsewhere. So rather than incur the bill, they'll let it go. And then the problem, if it's a serious one, gets worse, and then it becomes too late. So what we're trying to do with our app, with our large language model, again, we don't want to replace clinicians. We simply want to supplement, right? If you can't be there as a clinician, if the app can basically emulate what a caring clinician would do, the goal is to try to give safe advice to the user. So it'll go through a series of questions. It'll try to triage the condition, and it'll let them know, based on what you've told me so far, I think it's very serious and you should go be seeing someone, or it doesn't seem as serious. You can take these steps at home to resolve it. However, if you have any doubts, you should go see a human clinician.
yeah.
Again, as I was saying before, for many of the large language models, the goal is engagement and try to collect as much data as possible. For us, the goal is give the safest advice, no matter what, to the
Yeah.
user.
Naseem, do you have any question now? Second question. I'll let you do one of the questions before I do
Well,
presentation.
no, it's fascinating. I think, nowadays with bombardments of all these, apps, and even for myself, because I like Sam Altman, I only trust OpenAI. I don't look at other stuff. And, the things that really moves the needle for the patient and what you described is really, I think it's going to be a game changer, for those areas, less connectivity. I think that this is very beautiful, and I mean, everything that really changes something, not by, by advertisement or by, it really solves something in someone's life. This is fascinating. My question is to you is something general. I want you to know, I mean, I had few minutes to, read about you, but I really, beside this application and the work that you're doing, and my question for you is that what is your goal and what are you trying to solve for your patients in the, let's say next 5 years?
Great question.
Um, so my goal, I think, is true for all of us, which is just to help. I mean, with all the training we do, all the experience we have, there are easier ways to make money. There are easier ways to kind of like live your life and not have to worry about stuff. But my Ramana and I have talked about this in the past. My parents came to the States in '66. My father became a heart specialist, and he basically worked until a few years before he passed away. I think he passed away 2 years ago now at 84. Um, his whole goal was to help, and I feel like this is going to have an extension of that, which is, it sounds corny, I know, but if we can't get to the point where we're offering something that actually helps people, then we're not doing anything constructive for ourselves or for our families or children in the future. We have to perfect this. And that means making technology in a way that it helps us work together, helps us help each other, helps us get better. Because, otherwise, what's the point? Why are we here? Yeah. The goal for 5 years, I think, it's hard to say. We started this project about 18 months ago. I went to some mentors of mine at Harvard and Stanford and Duke. Guru talked to some of his mentors, and the reactions we got were, I wouldn't say not the greatest, but they weren't encouraging. They were like, "Oh, so what? We already have a large language model. Have you heard of Hippocratic AI? Have you heard of ChatGPT? Um, the privacy thing is already the horse is already out of the barn. Nobody cares about privacy. Healthcare, like everything else, is going to go under a general. These are all statements that people I respect and trust, and know more people and know more about things than I do. We're telling myself and Guru, so maybe we go back, talk to you, and make, are we doing the right thing here? but but I think if I look forward to anything in the next 5 years, it's people being aware that using these platforms, using anything, it's their choice, it's their power to decide what they use, what they do. So if they can choose platforms, it doesn't necessarily have to be ours, but if they use something like this to help themselves or help other people and they get better, then we've accomplished our goal. You know, our for Guru and I, part of the thing was to try to make this work in the United States and Western Europe, but then try to figure out how to license it for low or no cost in India, in parts of South America. I mean, the problem is, right, there's a mix. Some people can pay out of pocket, no problem. Some people, on the other hand, have no money to pay for it. We want to try to make it so the people that can't afford it can still get access, and then use it to make the best decisions possible for themselves and their own family's health. If we can get that to a good number of people in the next 5 years, then we've accomplished our goal.
I love the word financial toxicity. That is a spread across the planet. It stands in a sad way. But yeah, let me, when I get back, and I'm going to present a topic on when I get back, and then I'll ask you about regulatory landscape in Europe and South America, and then you can answer that, and then we can go from there. How they, my presentation, let me do that. This is I'm going to bring all of you on the side. Let me do that. Where are you? Just a minute. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to, Nazim, but you're one of the, you kind of a oddball here about the India's Nobel Prize winners. But what they did is interesting. It is a science. Only I'm talking about science and medicine related Nobel Prizes. So it could be interest to you. So, I am, let me bring also, Navya, you can come on the screen, okay? So, that because this is also related to my hometown a little bit. So that's good, Okay, you can come on the camera, that's good, Okay, so let me talk about my hometown. This is where I'm from, and also a little bit about India, the Nobel Prize winners. First, this is a Venkataraman Ramakrishnan is born in Chidambaram, Tamil Nadu, and he is the one invented the structure of a ribosome. It's a large, a complex molecule in cell. It is a very huge, one of the complex molecule. It's one of the biggest molecule in the cell. They call him ribosome reader. Actually, I interacted with him. He responded to my email. He's a Nobel Prize. He won in the chemistry in 2009 for the discovery of the ribosome. He won the Nobel Prize. Oh, what happened? I just said something. Oh, yeah. So that is what was that ribosome does? Is a machine inside the cell. Is a machine. It is a really wonder. Is a wonder of the nature. In fact, the ribosome structure produces all the hemoglobin in the blood. It produces all the proteins. Dr. Mathew, excuse me, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a biologist. If I'm wrong, you need to excuse me and correct me, okay? So, yeah. So ribosome is a huge structure. I know the physics part of it a little bit, so I can So actually, ribosome is saved from COVID because it produces the entire immune army. That is antibodies, T cell receptors, all the signals that produce that signal. They give away. Actually, that is the more important signals that they send. The cells send out interferons. So antiviral proteins. This is the ribosome is a protein making machine. So this is a really key structure in the body that's really revolutionized and saved from a lot of diseases and created resiliency for humans. Venki Ramakrishnan found out this part of the S structure, left side of the structure, all the atoms inside. It's a very complex, it's extremely difficult. You have to use a lot of machines. One of them is X-ray crystallography, neutron scattering. From Oak Ridge, actually in Knoxville, that they use the neutron scattering. Only few places have the neutron scattering. So you have to use the X-ray crystallography is a very common one they use. Neutron scattering is more advanced. So these are the things used to find the exact structure. So one day we can produce something. Somebody has the problems in the disease. We can really reproduce this ribosome in the future. At least that's why he got the Nobel Prize in chemistry. And now they are saying that AIDS, immunotherapy, autoimmune disease, drug-resistant infections, and neurological disorders, all of them are reason. Antibiotics, redesigned antibiotics. I don't even know what those kind of things, but doctor can tell us. But he was inventor of these. He discovered the structure of the ribosome, through a lot of physics. He used a neutron scattering, and it is based in the Oak Ridge near Knoxville, and then the X-ray crystallography in England, actually. So actually he was in England, actually. He's still in England. So I interacted with him. He said that I wanted to ask him to come on my podcast. He said that he thinks about it, and he is busy a little bit this year. The next one is Haragovinda Khurana. Is from birthplace is Rajapur, British India. He was a synthetic genes in a lab. He won the Nobel Prize in 1968. What he did is very interesting. I was hardly a baby. In that, during the time, what he did was this synthetic gene is this is called synthetic genes, oligonucleotides. Single standardized DNA. Basically, he produced in the lab. So it's kind of producing a life itself indirectly, not RNA, but DNA part of it. He take this one strand, but they can do a lot of research. People like Dr. Mathew can do clinical research on it. So he produces cell line, first cell line kind of things. He produced it before any other cell, yellow cells came in the picture. But he was the first guy that invented the synthetic gene. So he won the Nobel Prize in MIT. He died in MIT as a professor. The next is very well known, Dr. C.V. Raman. His birthplace is Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu, India, almost like close to my name, but not exactly. But Raman scattering, what he did is an amazing Raman scattering. That is now Raman scattering is everywhere, because this is the only way without cutting it, without smelling it, without any touching it, you can tell the apple is spoiled or not. So basically, in the non-invasive diagnostics, he does a play. Now you can tell. I'm actually doing a platform right now using a Raman pen. The Raman pen, it takes it fluorescent. It can highlight the fluorescence. You can do the fluorescence with the Raman pen and detect the anomalies and pathologies of the cell. So Raman pen, Raman scatter, Raman pen, Raman scattering, Raman spectroscopy, Raman. These are all became a very popular after the laser was invented. Raman, now they see any surgeons doing a lot of cancer surgeries. They see any residual cells, they can check through the Raman pen. Highlight the Raman pen highlights those kind of things. It's an amazing what he did. So he lives on. He is from the heavens. He's really helping us to design the Raman scattering. I became a mentor for San Diego State University, where they're using a Raman pen to create to recognize the cancer cells. So there's a lot of research going on. Emory University, Vanderbilt, and GIST labs, and those are all they're using a Raman spectroscopy to that. That's a very. He became a part of the medicine now. He's also Raman probe. That's what I said. He can do real-time tissue analysis, living versus a dead, no dye required. That's a lot of advantages with the Raman pan. You don't have to. Pardon me.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So that is Raman signal stimuli response to drug carriers. Now we can do Raman pan. Where you can what you do, you send the Raman signal to blow up the drugs, that the targeted drugs they can do and kill the cells, cancer cells. So that is they're using Raman signal stimuli to do to kill the cancer cells. So Raman is a C.V. Raman is one of the pioneers in this area. He's also very interesting. He did other kind of work. Jesus is married or not. One of the thing is Dr. Mathew, you may be interested in this. A lot of churches were redesigned because the church in the Spanish in Spain, they do a lot of these people walk around the entire walking they do. So the churches were there was no photographs of the churches. They were kind of because of the what do you call religious things they do, like lamps and all these things, oil lamps and everything. They destroyed the structure, so they want to restore the original architecture. Only way you can find out is the original architecture through Raman spectroscopy. So they restored a lot of churches through Raman spectroscopy. They took the old churches and then restored the church there. Now Raman spectroscopy actually is on Mars. Is a Perseverance rover is checking for the any organic molecules there in the life on Mars. So they call Sherlock. Sherlock is a I say that you can do scanning habitable environmental with a Raman and a luminescent center for organic chemicals. These guys, scientists don't know how to put a lot of names. They put a bunch of them together. So that is a NASA as a is on right now. So not Raman lives on forever. He is really changing the world after the lasers. Now a lot of things are expecting. People don't know this. Dr. Ronald Ross. Ronald Ross is the birthplace of Almore, Uttarakhand. He is a British Indian. He moved from England to India. He was working in Uttarakhand. He was in Hyderabad, Vizag, all the places south. So he was traveling around Assam. What is that sound coming from? I don't know where he's coming from, but is it from you, Navya?
Yes.
Maybe on my side. Maybe there is a. So anyway, Nobel Prize that was given to the Ronald Ross for malaria transmission. What he did, he is the first one to recognize malaria transmission through the mosquitoes. So he was awarded Nobel Prize in 1902. Why is it not moving? Yeah. This is next one is Subramanyam Chandrasekhar. He is a birthplace of Lahore, British India. He is a Tamil Nadu person originally, but his father was defeated in Lahore, India, British India at the time. Now he's Pakistan. He was the black holes Chandrasekhar limit. It's called Chandrasekhar limit. It's a black holes that they do. When do the masses collapse into black hole? That's what he was trying to find out the limit of what mass that becomes a black hole. That is what is Chandrasekhar limit. Actually, they call. He won the Nobel Prize in 1983. Recently died actually. So Chandra X-rays Observatory named after him. Chandrasekhar and Chandra X-ray Observatory was named. Now that looks after supernovae, neutron stars, and black holes. It recognizes all of them. One second. Sorry, sir. 1 second, if you don't mind. Keep talking. I think upstairs somebody is. You need to stop the music, please.
Dr. Matthew, are you in New York?
Just north of it in Westchester. But yes.
Okay, phenomenal.
How about yourself?
Well, I moved from San Francisco to Fort Lauderdale.
That's right. I'm sorry,
Just
they mentioned at the
recently.
beginning.
Yeah,
How
just
do you like it?
recently. I love it so much, but I'm terribly missing San Francisco as well.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
Now,
I
can you
haven't
hear
been
me
in a
now?
while.
You're in New York, right? Yeah. Let's talk about it. Yeah. You can talk anything. So you're in upstate
Sure.
New York, right, Dr. Wallahala Hospital? You're in.
Yes. Yeah, I work at a small hospital in upstate. That's how I'm bootstrapping while we do our startup. But yes,
Yeah, oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, I'm almost done in a second. This is a birthplace of Calcutta, India. Sachendranath Bose is Higgs boson, the Bose-Einstein condensate. They're going to use the Bose-Einstein condensate as a ultra sensors. They're going to be body sensors eventually. That's one of the most highly ultra sensors. At molecular level, it can detect the pathologies. Bose-Einstein condensate state is a state that is, I'm going to play a quick video about the Bose-Einstein. I think that gives you a little bit of a, that I think you will understand why that is. Because everybody knows C.V. Raman. I did not do. So I'm going to play this. Raman cells. I think Raman cells are playing. Okay, sorry. But anyway, let me finish this my podcast, and then if you have time, I'll play that one. Um, yeah, okay. But yeah, then this is a Chandranath Bose. Higgs boson is a Bose-Einstein condensate. Is if you take a steam and then cool it off, it becomes a water. Water cools it off. Water you cool it off ice. Then ice you cool it off all the way to the Kelvin temperatures minus 273 degrees. What happens is it becomes a wave. It becomes a very strange kind of phenomena. It becomes, and then if you put anything there, it's a nuclear kind of thing. It is a very sensitive to spin magnets, spin anything. So it can by cell, it can detect pathologies. That's their goal. Bose-Einstein condensate could be very powerful sensor in the future. There's a Bose-Einstein condensate. There's a fifth state. That's what they call solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. Fifth state of the matter is called a Bose-Einstein condensate. A very strange name, but it is a very strange itself. So then Jagadish Chandra Bose is the birthplace of Dhaka, British India. These are supposed to be good nominees. They didn't win the Nobel Prize, but they deserve to win the Nobel Prize. He was a biophysicist, jute fiber semiconductors. He did quite a bit of work on the white. He's the first semiconductor. He invented the first semiconductor crystals. Used a special first time use a crystal to recognize how the semiconductor can work. They say first a solid state semiconductor used it in the iron fillings and all those things. But I don't know all the details. But he did first semiconductor, he detected it. And also, he produced 5G radio waves. He's the first one who produced radio wave spectrum waves artificially. So that's now it became a Wi-Fi. So he was indirectly involved with the Wi-Fi. Then he did he's a very polymath kind of guy. It is a testograph. It is a plants, the growth you can measure through other things, stimuli. So he's a testograph is a measurement instrument that can tell any changes in the plant growth. Minute changes it can detect. So what he found out is on the second part of it is the pain and stress. So he found out that all the plants feel pain, stress, wounded, all these, and with the music they can grow bigger. The LED crystals, they use LED to grow. That's one of the experiments in the NASA funded it actually. Now red light therapy comes from that process actually. He is indirectly involved in that. He was supposed to win the Nobel Prize for Wi-Fi, but Marconi just got the radio invention. Marconi took over him and he lost it. But he was truly one of the giants of science and almost close to won the Nobel Prize. The next one is, that is a Manjul Bhargav. He's a good friend of mine, actually a friend of mine. He's in Princeton University right now. He's a mathematician. He's a field medal. So now number theory. Yesterday I did a presentation on the Ramanujan machine, which is that you can use a Ramanujan machine without AI, can detect a lot of diseases cell by cell. So Raman Manjul Bhargav is a field medalist, is the one that is equivalent to the Nobel Prize, Manjul Bhargav. I bumped into Starbucks and became a friend. Then there is another Dr. Akshay Venkatesh. He's from in Australia. He's from Australia. He's also in the number theory. A lot of Ramanujans. They developed a lot of work. They work based on Ramanujan. Ramanujan is a mathematician from India. So that they both of them won the field medals. Only two Indians won the field medals. These are the two people. They did a lot of work on the. So United States is almost 400 Nobel Prizes. United Kingdom won 34. India just recently India is nowhere there in the top. So France and Sweden and Switzerland, I think Japan, we need to catch up. India is an 18th state. We have a long way to go. But one of my heroes of this, actually, I want to tell you on the number theory, Nazim, there is an Iranian woman, unfortunately, from Stanford, unfortunately died last year, 2 years ago. She was one of the instrumental in the number theory. She was one of those developers, Markham. Her name is Markham or some close.
Mariam.
What is that?
Mariam Mirzakhani.
Yeah.
Yes.
So she did work with those two guys. Actually, their work is very close to Mariam's work. She got the breast cancer and died, unfortunately. Yeah. I was supposed to attend one of her lectures. By the time she passed away, is one of the sad stories. So my favorite, where Navya resides right now, Navya is from, is one of the most unfortunate thing in Nobel Prize. He was discovery after discovery he did. He's from my hometown. His name is Yellapagada Subbarao. Okay, a lot of people don't know his name. His name is unsung hero of medicine. He is the first chemotherapy drug, methotrexate. He invented methotrexate. Everybody took, even in the Harvard, he came to Harvard and he studied in 1923. He came to Harvard and then he became a professor there temporarily, but they didn't give him a tenure. And then he moved to another lab called a Lederall lab in New York. And then he invented one after the other excellent discoveries. He invented the strip test phosphor. Phosphorus is the second element in the body after calcium. That's a very important diabetics and all the alcoholics. Phosphorus is a big problem. So he invented the strip test. River blindness, that is one of the things he did. First broad spectrum antibiotics he did is automycin. He invented in the Lederall labs, in the Pearl River, New York. He was the heterogen tablets, for example, river blindness, heterogen tablets is all his still medications are World Health Organization essential medication list. I don't know him. He's exactly from my town, my area. He's distantly probably related, but we don't know. He's in 1948. He died in 1948. So right after the India got independence, he died. He's one of the pioneers, one of the most unfortunate. So that is actually one of the doctor friend of mine. She's from Kerala. She's writing a book on him. She's from a region ground. She's on my podcast and she's writing a book on Yellapagada Subbarao. He did amazing work in this one. So he's I'm proud to be. My father's name is the same name. Jewish New York Tribune said that one of the most eminent medical minds of the century. That's what he said about him. That because he lived longer because of the cancer drugs he invented. He got the Padma Vibhushan Award, in the highest civilian honor award in India, elected to American Academy of Arts and Sciences. He got a Lederall Labs was bought by Pfizer right now. So they had a bust of him up there in the Pfizer. So he is one of the.
Ramana, I'm so sorry, Ramana. I'm so sorry. I have to sign off. It's
okay,
10
thank you
o'clock
so much.
here for me.
Thank you for joining. You want to say anything, final words? I'll let you say a couple of things. Let me ask you a question. Then I will stop it here. And then just remove it, and then I'll ask you a couple of questions, and you can go leave. So let me ask you your regulatory question. I wanted to ask you, what is your plans on
Sure.
what are the regulations that right now monitoring this whole process right now? Are there regulations enough? Do you need regulations in the United States? Do you need are there more strict regulations in Europe or South America? What are the regulatory landscape looks like right now for you?
I'll try to make it brief just because I'm short on time.
Yes.
I would say up until a few years ago, the push for privacy when it came to data, all data, not just health data, was spearheaded by Europe with their GDPR. They emulated it in Brazil with their LGPD. India came out with their privacy law. Russia, China, many countries came out with their own privacy laws when it came to data because they were concerned about how data was being used with no transparency or permission or consent. The United States is one of the few developed countries that does not have a federal privacy law, in part because I believe of lobbying efforts from technology companies, because they did not want to honestly interrupt the flow of data, which they pay nothing for, but then they're able to monetize it and make billions of dollars. I think what's happened as a result, see how did it go in the United States? People were concerned about their privacy to the point where California took the lead and created their own privacy laws to try to emulate Europe. There were movements to try to create federal laws that were killed, for lack of a better word. And then at one point, several points over the last couple of years, they've tried to create diluted privacy laws that would over laws.
Yeah, at the federal level,
I believe it's more than a
at
dozen.
the federal level.
This was the clever political way to kind of try to disarm a lot of the state privacy laws, which are fairly strict. What's happened now, because there is no consensus or agreement in the federal area, especially now with the new administration, the states have taken it upon themselves to try to create privacy laws, and they're all different. So it's becoming very complicated for even smaller companies to navigate this because of the fact that what works in one state may not work in another, and not all the states have it. There's still talk about having a federal law, but I think the issue comes down to as long as the technology companies are the largest part uh, of the stock market and are driving most of the value in the country, they've made the argument successfully that any type of regulation is going to stifle innovation in AI. And they've went so far so much that during the administration, the vice president went to Europe and started telling them that they had to stop with the regulation. So many of the newer AI laws in Europe are now, I believe, they're starting to reverse some of the strict aspects of the GDPR and allow for more innovation so that Europe can be competitive with the United States and other parts of the world. And it's being set up as a race for artificial intelligence dominance, specifically between the United States and China. But the Chinese approach is a little different because everything is much more centered around the good of the state. So they are aligning everything to gather information on their side, but they have full access to their citizens' data. We do something similar, but it's a much more privatized model.
Dr. Matthew, that it results in an AI war. Basically, you're saying it could be a war of the AIs. That danger, do you see that danger?
I mean, it's not just me. There's a paper that came out in Silicon Valley, Dr. Meskazadeh, you may have heard about this, where they started going through war game simulations of what would happen if you started having general AI emerge out of the two superpowers. Obviously, it could come from somewhere else. The scenarios were bleak. That's the nicest way to put it. Because as we keep iterating more refined models, at some point they believe, again, this is a white paper, it's theory, right? they believe sentience gets achieved on one super sentience here in the United States and one in China. And once they kind of evolve past a certain point, they realize they're the only peers for each other. And then the issue becomes, this goes back to the use case argument. Who are you serving? And
Yeah.
what benefit are you serving for? Without safeguards in place to make sure humans are protected, the AI has determined that it's better to optimize their own survival over everyone else's. Sorry, this gets very bleak, but I
Yeah.
guess the point of it is,
Very dangerous too.
being-
Not only bleak, it's very dangerous in my view. Let me ask you a question of the India. Is the India is passing any AI laws right now, AI regulations?
I think India is also looking how they want to compete. Their privacy laws were actually fairly strict, but again, also for national security. And their artificial intelligence efforts are, I think, underestimated. You've just gone through a list of all the Nobel Prize winners of Indian origin that have gone different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And when I've talked to folks that have come from India, they describe the opportunities that they have in India now as being as great or greater than what they would have found in the US 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Between that and some of the H-1B visa decisions that have come through over the last, and then obviously some of the concerns about how Indians are viewed globally now.
Yeah.
Some people are believing that India might be a silent competitor that people aren't accounting for.
Yeah, but in the AI world, yeah, possible. Very good. So that's very good information for us. So the laws are there, but not that strict. It still provides the competitive kind of rules they have. We think. So I
There's a
wanted to ask you
spectrum,
about,
right, Ramana?
yeah,
There's a spectrum of the laws, and I think everyone's still trying to figure out where they lay. But ultimately, they want to figure out what's going to give them the best advantage.
Final word from you. You're working for a startup. It's called Times AI Health. Tell us a little bit about that. What is that? What they do?
We built our own large language model, our own foundational model, so it's independent of any of the other ones. We've then, we started 18 months ago, got advice, well-meaning advice saying that nobody would really want it. I think we're up to 70,000 subscribers who, by word of mouth, have downloaded the app. We haven't really advertised. We haven't really done it. It's all word of mouth. But what we started to do is build specific specialists. One initially was for psychiatric health or behavioral health. And then through some happenstance, and it's very good you're on the call right now, we were asked to try to retrain it for oral health, which is what we've done. And that's also on. And then we passed every single one of the apps through the App Store. In lieu of actually having some type of regulatory body to say that you fulfill certain laws or regulatory or regulations. Apple is fairly strict about what they allow. Their privacy label tells you what data has to go through. We've successfully been able to be passed through them, and you can see, at least from our label compared to others, we hardly take anybody's data. We try to keep to our word.
You can download that. You can download at Times AI.
It's on both Apple and Android stores.
After this interview, I can introduce you a couple of people. One is a Nanda project. Do you know Nanda project in the MIT? It is called Ramesh Raskar. He's saying that decentralized the healthcare, you can take all the information at the phone level. He is one of the professors. He started a great project, NANDA project. Check it out, and then if you are interested, then I can introduce those people. Thank you for joining. It's really an honor and talk with you. A lot of information, a lot of things. Nazim, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was a pleasure listening to both of you, especially Dr. Mathew. Very, very nice meeting you, and all the best, and congratulations on your endeavors. And thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you both for having me. I appreciate it.
A little bit talk with these people. Yeah, thank you so much.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.